I was super lucky to have her. And I felt so facing her on court. And I'm just so blessed to have that opportunity.
She's taking the balls early, taking time to you. She's still 20 years old. So yeah, she's an unbelievable player.
There's a practice court tucked inside the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. And if you had walked past it on the 2nd of May, you would have stopped. You would have stopped because on one side of the net stood a 6-time Grand Slam champion, one of the greatest clay court players the women's tour has ever produced, and on the other side stood a 20-year-old from the Philippines who, depending on which corner of the tennis world you occupy, is either the most exciting young player alive or the best-kept secret in professional sports. Her name is Alex. She is ranked 44th in the world. And according to everyone who saw the photographs coming out of that academy, she was not just surviving those drills, she was winning them. Now, before we get into what that means, and trust me, it means a lot, we need to rewind a little, because this story does not start in Mallorca. It does not even start in Rome, where Alex landed 48 hours after those photos surfaced. This story starts in Dubai on a Tuesday night in February, in a stadium that had no business being as loud as it was. And it starts with a scoreline that a lot of people in professional tennis are still trying to explain away. February 17th, round of 32. Jasmine Paolini, the reigning champion of Rome, a woman who had just become the first Italian player to win the Internazionale Femminili di Roma in nearly 40 years, stepped onto court against a left-handed 20-year-old she had never faced before. The match lasted less time than most people's lunch breaks. 6-2, 6-1 in the tiebreak. Paolini was not pushed to the limit. She was not worn down over 3 sets by some grinding baseline battle. She was blitzed, off her own serve, inside 30 minutes. And the player doing the blitzing had just recorded her 3rd career top 10 win and her first of the 2026 season, which tells you everything about the trajectory Alex is on right now. But here is the part that does not show up in the statistics. After the match, Paolini walked into the press room and she called Alex huge for women's tennis. She talked about how important it was to have players from all around the world competing at this level. And look, on the surface, that sounds gracious. It sounds like exactly the kind of thing a good sport says after a tough loss. But read it a second time. A defending finalist at a Grand Slam, a woman who had just been one of the stories of the 2025 season, standing at a microphone and publicly anointing the person who just beat her. That is not a compliment wrapped in a press conference smile. That is a player processing something she did not see coming and doing it out loud in front of the entire tour. The entire tour was listening. Then came Madrid. April 23rd, first round, and Alex walked out against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, a woman who has been playing professional tennis for 18 years, who reached the Roland Garros final in Neumayer 2021, who has built her entire career on clay courts, who has the kind of record on the dirt that commands respect in every locker room on the tour. Pavlyuchenkova is not someone you expect to see figured out in a first-round match, especially not on clay, and especially not in straight sets. 6-3, 6-3. Clean. Clinical. And then, less than 24 hours after that loss, Pavlyuchenkova sat down with reporters and said something that should have made the entire Italian Open draw pay attention. She said Alex's game is consistent and well-suited to clay courts. 18 years on tour, a Roland Garros finalist, and she went on the record, unprompted, the morning after losing, to tell the world that this kid belongs on the red stuff. Pavlyuchenkova was not being diplomatic. She was not doing anyone a favor. When a player with her pedigree and her experience takes time after a defeat to publicly validate her opponent's game on a specific surface, she is sending a message. She was talking to the draw in Rome. She was talking to the #1 seed. She was talking to Paolini. 8 days after that Madrid exit, Alex walked back into the Rafa Nadal Academy and those photographs started circulating. There she is, drilling on red clay, cross-court forehands, trading sets with a 6-time Grand Slam champion, looking like she is exactly where she is supposed to be. And I think that detail matters more than people are giving it credit for. Because 9 days before Rome, Alex had been bageled in a first set by Elise Mertens in Madrid and lost 6-2, 6-1. Social media went quiet. No posts, no carefully worded statement about resilience, no motivational caption with a training photo. Just silence for 48 hours. And then the pictures from Mallorca appeared and she let the training do the talking. She did not need to tell anyone she had bounced back. The practice partner told the story for her. Now let us talk about Rome specifically, because the Foro Italico is not just a backdrop for this narrative. It is the entire point. Last year, Alex walked onto one of those courts for the first time in her career and got bageled in the first set by Marta Kostyuk. 6-love, 6-1. Gone in 48 minutes, that was a year ago. The player who just handed Pavlyuchenkova a double 6-3 on clay, who beat Paolini so cleanly in Dubai that Paolini went to a microphone to process it publicly, who spent the 9 days between Madrid and Rome drilling at the most legendary clay court academy on the planet, that player is walking back into the Foro Italico, and the score from last year is the thing she came back to erase. This is where the story gets genuinely interesting, because on the other side of all of this sits Jasmine Paolini. And I want to be fair to her because what she accomplished last year was remarkable. Lifting that trophy in Rome as an Italian woman, ending a drought that stretched back nearly 4 decades, becoming the face of Italian tennis in a way that nobody had managed in a generation. That is not a small thing. She deserved every bit of the celebration that followed. The sponsorships, the covers, the nickname, La Principessa del Foro Italico. She earned it. And then 2026 happened. Look at the seeding sheet for this year's Italian Open. Sabalenka at 1. The rest of the top 8 right where you expect them. And then at 9, the defending champion. A player who won this tournament 12 months ago is walking into her own title defense seated outside the top 8. That is not a statistical quirk. That is the tour's official verdict on the 12 months Paolini just had. And the player most responsible for those 12 months heading in the direction they did is in the same draw, unseeded, 3 rounds, away, depending on how the bracket falls. Let us also be honest about what is at stake for her here. 2,000 ranking points are attached to that trophy from last year. If Paolini has a bad week in Rome, she does not just lose a tournament. She potentially falls out of the top 10 before Roland Garros seeding is even finalized. And Roland Garros seeding matters enormously because it determines whether you open the French Open against a qualifier or against someone who can end your tournament before the second week even starts. The pressure on Paolini this week is not normal defending champion pressure. It is existential in the ranking sense, and the entire Italian tennis world knows it. But here is what makes this genuinely complicated. Italy is home to roughly 165,000 Filipinos, and the largest concentration of that community on the continent is right there in Rome. The same crowd energy that turned the center court in Dubai into something that felt more like a Manila rally than a tennis match. Those flags, that noise, those 9 words Alex spoke into a stadium microphone asking how many of you have prayed for me, that demographic force is already mobilizing for Rome. Filipino sports outlets based in Italy are coordinating turnouts. Italian tennis Twitter, which is not a small or quiet corner of the internet, is openly anxious about the fact that Paolini's home court advantage this week might be a lot less of an advantage than anyone expected. And that detail is not trivial. Crowd energy does not win tennis matches on its own, but it does shift momentum in tight moments. It fills the silence after a missed first serve. It turns a 30-all point in the third game of a second set into something that feels like a cup final. The Foro Italico has been Paolini's cathedral. This week, it might feel like shared ground. Now zoom out for a second and look at the broader picture, because what Alex is building right now is not a hot streak. It is a pattern. And patterns are what separate players who make occasional noise from players who are genuinely rewriting where they belong in the sport. She beat Paolini in straight sets in Dubai. She beat Pavlyuchenkova in straight sets on clay in Madrid. She spent 2 weeks at the Rafa Nadal Academy before arriving in Rome. She is 20 years old and she is ranked 44th, which means the seeding math has not caught up with what she is actually doing on court yet. That gap between ranking and actual performance level is what makes her so dangerous right now. Every player in that draw who draws her either seeds or unseeded is going to look at a number 44 and think they know what they are getting. They will not. Pavlyuchenkova thought she knew. She went on the record the next morning to revise her assessment. Paolini thought she knew. She went to a microphone to tell the world Alex is huge for the sport. When your opponents are reaching for words like that after losing to you, the words are telling you something the rankings have not said yet. And then there is the clay court argument specifically, because I think some people are still treating Alex's results on this surface as a surprise. They should not be. The Madrid result against Pavlyuchenkova was not a fluke. 6-3, 6-3 against an 18-year professional on the red stuff is not something that happens by accident. And the choice to go directly to Mallorca after that Madrid lost to Mertens to spend 9 days on clay courts at the academy where the greatest clay court player in history trained, that was not a coincidence. That was a statement of intent. That was a player telling herself and telling anyone paying attention exactly where she expects to compete and exactly how seriously she is taking this surface. She is not hoping clay works for her. She is building on it deliberately. The training partner at the Rafa Nadal Academy is not a small detail either. When a 6-time Grand Slam champion agrees to share a practice court with you, and when the photographs that come out of those sessions show something other than a lopsided drill, the tennis world notices. The whispers coming out of Mallorca. This week were not about a young player trying to keep up. They were about a young player who was more than holding her own, and that is a meaningfully different thing. Let us come back to the timeline one more time because I think when you compress it into a sequence, it hits differently. February 17th, Alex beats Paolini in Dubai, 62-61 in the tiebreak. Third career top 10 win, first of the 2026 season. Paolini goes to a press room and tells the world Alex is huge. April 23rd, Madrid, first round. Alex beats Pavlyuchenkova on clay 6-3, 6-3. Pavlyuchenkova goes on record the next morning to validate her game on the surface. April 24th through May 1st, Alex goes quiet. No social media, no spin. May 2nd, the Mallorca photographs surface. May 3rd, the Filipino sports desks in Manila start trending a hashtag before the Rome draw is even printed. May 5th, the draw drops and 8 days of tennis begin that could reshape the Roland Garros bracket for everyone involved. Every result Alex produces at the Foro Italico this week is a brick in the Paris draw. A deep run in Rome pushes her back toward the seeded territory she lost in March, which changes everything about how her Roland Garros begins. A bad week keeps her vulnerable to a brutal draw in Paris. And the same is true in the opposite direction for Paolini. Lose early in Rome, and she walks into Roland Garros defending a Grand Slam finalist's points with a ranking that has been quietly slipping away from her since February. That Dubai scoreline has not stopped creating consequences. It just keeps compounding. After Rome comes Parma, then Strasbourg qualifying, then the Roland Garros draw release on May 22nd. The clay season does not pause for anyone, and it does not forgive players who let a week like this slip away from them. There is something I keep coming back to when I think about Alex specifically, and it is the moment in Dubai that I mentioned earlier. 27 minutes into the match, she is a setup, she is breaking serves, the stadium is absolutely electric, and she stops, looks out at the crowd, and asks how many of you have prayed for me. That is not a scripted moment. You cannot manufacture something like that. That is a 20-year-old who knows exactly where she came from and exactly what it means that she is standing in that spot, and the crowd in Dubai knew it too. It is the kind of thing that builds a fan base that travels, that follows a player across time zones, that fills a draw's worth of seats in Rome with flags from a country that is not Italy. The tennis is the reason Alex is here. The person is the reason the world is paying attention. She has done something genuinely rare, which is found a way to win matches that people talk about and conduct herself in moments that people remember. And she is 20 years old. She has not peaked. She is not even close to peaked. She is 44th in the world, and she is making 6-time Grand Slam champions revise their schedules to share a practice court in Mallorca. The Italian Open has not started yet as of this recording. The draw has not officially dropped. Paolini has not lost a single point of her title defense. But the most important thing a defending champion carries into a tournament is not their game or their experience or even the crowd. It is the quiet certainty that the trophy is theirs until someone proves otherwise. That certainty left in Dubai 11 weeks ago. It left in straight sets. The Princess of Rome is bracing, and the player she is bracing for just spent 9 days training on Rafa Nadal's clay. So before the draw prince and before the first ball is struck on Italian soil, here is where I land. Alex goes deeper in Rome this year than Paolini does. Not because the bracket says so, not because the rankings say so, because everything that has happened since February 17th is pointing in one direction, and the only people who have not fully accepted it yet are the people who have not been watching closely enough. If you have been following this since the Miami quarterfinal, since that Dubai night, since Madrid, you already know. If you are just catching up now, welcome, because the next 8 days at the Foro Italico are going to be the kind of tennis that reminds you why you started watching in the first place.